Welcome to Urban U, where stories of school and city unfold at the nation's largest urban university, the City University of New York. This month, CUNY and Artificial Intelligence, students enrolled in the City Design Program, an interview with the U.S. National Youth Poet Laureate of 2024, and so much more. Stay tuned for Urban U.
AI is a significant part of our present and our future, and CUNY's approach to AI reflects that.
Our approach is to expand AI in different fields so students coming into the workforce are ready for whatever space they're stepping into. And so it's really important that we're preparing students in a multidisciplinary sense and stepping out of just computer and technology fields and expanding it further.
A comprehensive perspective that's part of CUNY's mission to advance AI education. A vision led by Interim Senior University Dean of Academic Innovation, Evan Silberman.
CUNY is investing in AI in not only the teaching and learning space, helping students prepare to use it with AI literacy, helping faculty learn to use it for integrating into curriculum. Also in the research domain, CUNY is part of initiatives like Empire AI, which is a consortium of research institutions who are building a state-of-the-art computing center.
Okay, can anybody tell me what the 4 Ps are?
There are approximately 167 AI-related courses throughout the CUNY system, and a master's degree in generative AI that's offered at the School of Professional Studies, the first of its kind in the nation. Additionally, CUNY has free and low-cost on-demand courses and virtual experiences that focus on the practical use of AI, developed through partnerships with industry leaders like Google.
I think about AI and the potential that it has, the way it will ratify how education is delivered, how students are taught and supported, how it will impact our communities and society on a day-to-day basis.
An impact that Silberman acknowledges is not without a dark side.
So this is all about developing frameworks where there's accountability, transparency, and you're building public trust because it's something that's being governed and regulated. And there are different ways in which companies may approach this, from their principal perspective, where they're designing and develop products so it's transparent how the data is being used and what's being done with it, how they're governing their own platforms. And in other cases, you have these major companies who are not transparent and it's an opaque box. And so it really comes down to the individual being mindful of how they're engaging with content and the choices that they're making.
And an important part of CUNY's AI strategy addresses ethics and academic integrity in the use of artificial intelligence.
I truly believe, on the whole, AI is a benefit, more so than it is a risk. And it really underscores the power of an institution like CUNY to prepare its students, its workforce, its faculty in using AI in responsible and ethical ways. And so to be so connected to something that has so much potential for our students and helping them prepare for the world ahead, but really preparing them to be leaders in this space. These are the students that are going to transform the way we live, the way we work, the way we engage in our daily lives. And that is just, it's incredibly inspiring and motivating.
For Urban U, I'm Susan Junn.
The city is endlessly shaped by planning, preservation, and design. These decisions often profoundly shape the city's future.
We're all asking questions about the impact of climate change. We're all asking questions about the city's infrastructure. We're all asking questions about immigration and housing and so on. And while we might not have definitive answers, what we know is that New Yorkers are not going to quit. They're not going to give up. They're going to keep working on ways to make the greatest city in the world work for more people.
Dean Dara Byrne of the Macaulay Honors College wants CUNY students to feel empowered to shape their own city.
I can't really develop New York's future changemakers if I can't get them in the room with today's changemakers.
That's the idea behind a new Macaulay Honors College internship called City Design. The school worked with Matthew Clark, the executive director of the Design Trust for Public Space.
At the very beginning of this organization's history was an idea that in order to solve these challenges that are facing New York, we need to build really smart teams that are collaborative and reflect the kind of diverse skill sets of New York City. And so for us, not only in taking a project and solving a problem, we want to do so by building a cross-section of expertise and of New Yorkers.
The first crop of interns hailed from various majors and were placed in different organizations and city agencies that are involved in fields such as city planning, architecture, parks, and preservation.
As a New Yorker, it was really interesting for me to just see how decisions in our neighborhoods are being made.
Shivani Ramsaran, who studied psychology and public policy at City College, interned at the Department of City Planning.
I live in the Bronx, and so I live in a part of the Bronx that's becoming pretty gentrified nowadays. So seeing some of the policy decisions that go into deciding what buildings get knocked down and turned into these huge luxury apartments, I think was interesting.
I'm from Harlem, born and raised, and I've seen it firsthand. I don't live where I used to live anymore because it got too expensive and we had to move out. And so I took a seminar class in this room, I think, and fell in love with urban studies.
Naia Timmons, who now has her degree in urban studies from Hunter, interned at a private design firm called 3x3, where she stayed on, focusing on parks.
For me, I really am interested in people. I like talking to people. It's my favorite part of the job. I ask people why they like the park that they are at, what they do in the parks, what they would want to see at parks, because I feel growing up, I never had the opportunity to be involved in the process of designing something, and I think it's really cool to give, especially young people, opportunities to build something that's meant for them, by them.
Brooklyn College art major Noam Abrahams interned at the Historic House Trust of New York City. That trust oversees 26 historic houses.
A lot of it was about how communities interact with their neighborhoods and the spaces around them. And to me, especially at the Historic House Trust, I think it had a lot to do with the history behind New York City and each neighborhood.
The experience hit close to home.
I actually grew up really close to one of the houses that they oversee here in Brooklyn, and it was actually one of the places we went to visit while I was an intern there, and it was crazy being 3 blocks from the house I grew up in, but seeing something I walked by or drove by all the time in a brand new way.
These are rooms and city agencies and governments and public processes that can feel scary, that can feel that you don't belong there, when in fact every New Yorker belongs in these rooms.
Sometimes decisions are kind of just made, and we just got to take it. And so I think having an opportunity like this where you're with the stakeholders, I think is really cool.
I think what I'm taking with me is a bigger appreciation for New York and everything that goes into planning and shaping it. There are so many layers behind every decision that gets made that you don't even really think about or interact with on a day-to-day basis.
It does make me wonder how the city will develop. I feel like there's just so much money involved, and I think you'll always see that the people with money end up getting priority over people who are already living in neighborhoods. And I do worry about the future of New York, but I am confident that we do have our different cultural neighborhoods. I do have confidence that a lot of them will continue to flourish and remain where they are in the city and to preserve that history.
For Urban U, this is Shannon Ayala.
everyone, I'm Isabel Ortiz, and welcome to Next Gen CUNY, where we spotlight CUNY changemakers who are breaking barriers in their careers and in their communities. Today, I have the pleasure of sitting down with a poet, a powerful storyteller, and an advocate. She's also the U.S. National Youth Poet Laureate of 2024. With all that being said, I am thrilled to welcome Stephanie Pacheco. Hi, Stephanie. Thank you so much for being here today.
Hey, Isabel. I'm so honored.
Your poetry really focuses on themes of community and identity and justice. So I'm excited to talk to you about your journey as a poet today. But I wanted to know for you, when did you really start your poetry journey, and when did you realize it was something that you were really good at?
When I was in middle school was when I started kind of cultivating my passion for writing. And it did start with some assignments and things that I would get in my English classes or what have you. I would take those assignments as a way to talk about what was happening in the world, what was happening in my community, and making the poems that I was writing my own. But even then, poetry was mostly kind of fleeting. It wasn't until I was in high school where I started going down a whole bunch of YouTube rabbit holes of all the poetry slam archives you can imagine, and seeing other people take poems and perform them and bring them to life on a stage and watch people cheer for them and watch as people talked about Blackness and womanhood and queerness and everything under the sun. And I was like, that's so cool. I didn't know that you could do that with words. People started asking me to perform my poems, and I'll never forget the first time that I performed a poem. I was 15 at the time, and I read out loud this poem that was about being from the Bronx and what it meant to grow up in my neighborhood and to be living a Black Latinx experience. And then people gave my little 15-year-old self a standing ovation, and I was like, my poetry couldn't just heal me. It couldn't just help me understand the world around me and how I was existing in it, but it could galvanize a room.
Yeah. And you spoke about how the first poem you performed when you were 15 was a poem about your upbringing in the Bronx, about your community. So you grew up in the Bronx, you're a native New Yorker, you're Afro-Latina. How do those kind of identities come together in your work, would you say?
Poetry has given me the means to not feel silenced by my identities or by my upbringing in the South Bronx, not feel weakened by it, but feel deeply, deeply strengthened by it. It's because of my poetry that I view growing up in the South Bronx, growing up with a single mom, growing up being Black and Latinx. I view all of that as a superpower, and it's because poetry has given me the room to reclaim it and to take it back.
But you also attended BMCC. You were a student at BMCC. And you had the opportunity to write a poem about CUNY called Dear CUNY.
I don't know of any other school that runs its city like you, that paints its town with its face like you. Everywhere I turn, every building is a student. Every train car is a classroom. Every leader I need already lives in me. Every philosopher I know wears a tote bag and hangs out at my library.
Can you tell me how that opportunity came together?
Yes, so it was a bit of a journey. I got to meet some of the amazing people at CUNY Central, and from there, I just remember ranting to them about this really big, crazy title that I got, and how, I happened to have been the first public college student and / community college student to hold the National Youth Poet Laureate title. And at some point down the line, they were like, Steph, can you write a poem for us? And I was like, there's so much to say about my experience as a CUNY student, but sure, I'll try. And then I did what I do with all my poems. I just let the words flow, and I just started writing about what it meant to be a CUNY kid studying in my BMCC library, and what it meant to always be on the train, and these very mundane, very simple experiences that we have as city kids, as CUNY kids.
You were the New York City Youth Poet Laureate, and you were named the U.S. National Youth Poet Laureate. What do those titles mean to you, and how do you hope to use those titles moving forward in your work?
To have those titles and to now, be able to say that I've gotten the 8th National Youth Poet Laureate title, it is so special to me, and not because it's a really fancy, prestigious accolade, but because of what I know it means to people from the communities that I'm from. People see this Black girl, this Latina from the South Bronx that grew up in a low-income household. People see this first-gen college kid and they see themselves. And that's so important because it's true. I am every CUNY kid. I am every kid from the South Bronx. I am every single child of immigrants. I am all of us. And I feel that every day in my body, in my life, and in my poetry. Like, I am all of us. And so I knew that when one of us won, it meant that all of us were winning. And so when I got this U.S. National Youth Poet Laureate title, it meant that finally a public school kid, a low-income kid, one of us got to be celebrated and got to be recognized. And it's also really important to me to, like I mentioned earlier, to share this title, to share this platform, to share all this glory with people every step of the way. And I intend to do that forever.
And it's clear as day your passion for poetry, your passion for uplifting your community. But you have now gone on to branch out into different areas of writing with your play, The Other Side. Can you tell me a little bit about that?
On the Other Side explores the stories, plural, of two Black girls navigating the New York City public high school system and just trying to survive and try to make it out on the other side. And the process of making that play and of, putting it up on stage was rigorous, because it's a big jump to go from writing like a 3-page poem, with a couple of stanzas, maybe 500, 600 words, to writing a 65-page or however many it was, full-length play. That's a jump. So it was rigorous. Having my background in poetry gave me a really solid foundation to bring the story to life. And it was emotional. I cried from beginning to end of the play itself. I cried while writing it. I cried while rehearsing. I cried because it was just so healing, and it was so nourishing to see how people saw themselves in it. I know it'll be the first of many non-poetry related but still poetic productions that I'm a part of.
If your next thing happens to be a book, I am so happy to add that to my collection.
Absolutely.
If it's something on stage, I would gladly be in the audience.
Absolutely.
I'm sure as a lot of people watching will, and a lot of people will definitely from your community as well, I'm sure. Thank you so much for being here. It was a pleasure getting to sit down and speak with you.
Thank you, Isabel. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Emily Blanco. I earned my associate's degree in business administration at Byrne Manhattan Community College, and I was a part of the CUNY ASAP program. I'm now earning my bachelor's degree at University of North Carolina at Chapel Hill, and CUNY ASAP really changed my college experience while I was at PMCC. It gave me structure, community, and the financial support I needed to stay focused and graduate on time. My advisor and the people in the program always believed in me and were a great support system. And eventually I would go on to become a Kaplan Educational Foundation Scholar, which helped me successfully transfer to UNC and to continue my growth both personally and academically. So ASAP gave me the confidence and support to stay on track and to keep reaching higher. And I'm grateful that these kinds of programs exist within CUNY.
My main goal is to introduce students to the medical device field, whether it is design or fabrication. I feel there is a big future there, and there is a big need for those who master these skills, focusing on prosthetic hands and prosthetic legs The students, when they work on this design, they know that this design and this product they're working on is going to have a big impact on someone. This person could be overseas, this person could be here. You know that you're designing something and fabricating something that will be in use by somebody who needs it.
One of my research projects that I am doing is with Professor Gaffar, where we are working on 3D printing prosthetic parts, for example, a prosthetic hand or a prosthetic leg. That is one of the biggest parts that we're doing. And by continuing to do research on this, we're trying to see if 3D printing is a viable option. As we share this research with companies that can provide it to the underprivileged, for example, in Africa or even in a different country in Asia, like Bangladesh, where I'm from, there are lots of people who are impoverished and unfortunately don't have the limbs that we are all grateful to have. So by 3D printing, it's an affordable option to allow them to have these same movements that we have in our everyday lives. It's a very big garment area in Bangladesh, and because of that, they don't have the same standards as we do here in America. So they often find themselves losing a lot of their limbs, especially their legs and their arms, due to the work that they have since they're not wearing the proper PPE, the protective equipment. So we got approached recently, a few months ago, by this company that is owned, it's a startup, by 2 Bengali Americans, and they are now looking into working with us so that we can upskill our research and possibly bring it to Bangladesh, where we can hand out these prosthetic parts that we 3D print in these labs to natives of Bangladesh.
Not everybody can afford spending $10,000 or $15,000 and sometimes $70,000 to buy a prosthetic device. This is a project for the whole humanity.
Printing out some prosthetic hands for Professor Gailani for the Enable program, where the school donates like a couple of prosthetics for them so that they can use it for research. These prosthetics, they run off like wires and stuff and allow people who don't, let's say, have hands to be able to use these as like a substitute. And it's relatively like easy to do if you just have a 3D printer.
We will print them here. I think in the long run, we will try to establish a small unit there where we can take the scans of the people and then just send electronically, for whether it's a hand or a leg, and then we fabricate it here and we send it back. We work also with the Cheshire Center in Sudan. That's for kids with disabilities, especially the children who have foot deformity. So our students were involved in designing, fabrication, and testing also of the plates that they use to fix the small shoe that they used to make.
I was at John Jay since 2017. I couldn't find my way around. Then COVID hit. I got into the 3D printing thing and I was like, all right, that's what I want to do. And then I enrolled into City Tech and I feel like I'm at home. Professor, he has these nice presentations about things that I didn't even realize were being done now. And that just gives me a lot of, a lot more confidence that that 3D printing is the future. It's not only, oh, this could be something, no, 3D printing is that something.
What I'm doing right now is a traditional 3D printed leg. So you have the knee part, which is, we call it the rotor. You have the socket, which connects to the knee joint. And then you also have just the foot. So we're thinking of having that as well as a casing on the outside of it. That way it kind of lets them customize it to their own feeling. How we wear clothes to represent ourselves, they can customize the outer casing to say, this is who I am. In 5 years, I hope to just continue being in this engineering field, work as a product designer, because that is the work that I do currently. I work a lot in product realization, which is where you're 3D printing, where you're building, because I love working with my hands, and I also just really love design work.
I want to see my students gaining jobs in the medical industry. Most of the hospitals in developed countries, they are establishing 3D printing units within the hospital. Our partners in hospital for special surgery, for example, when we started working with them, they didn't have a unit for manufacturing. Now they started one. This means what for us as engineers? Means job opportunities for our graduates. Many students here are the first in their family to go to college. We want to expand opportunities for everyone.
Thanks for watching and for being a part of the CUNY community along with us here at Urban U.